Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to After Further Review with Mark Ferreira and John Pelkey. I'm Mark Ferreira. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me. Apparently all of our Wi-Fi, my Wi-Fi here in San Mateo, California is wonky. Jeff Taylor is our producer, trying to navigate us through this day. So let's review. Last Monday, I was in Palos Verdes. Wednesday, Temecula, California.
Yeah.
Friday, back to Palos Verdes. And today, just south of the great city of San Francisco, home to the scrappy, gritty San Francisco 49ers.
Every time you write them off, man, every single time you write them off, and Arizona loses.
Yeah, I mean, it's nutty. The whole thing is very nutty. Las Vegas, the Raiders lose by how many points, John?
137.
137 points they lost by, which is just unbelievable. A wacky day in the National Football League, there's no doubt. In terms of the 49ers, and I have my hand out like this, like I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk about them because it was a pretty good win.
And Q-Crawl.
And they got Mostert back. They got Deebo Samuel back. Those are two great offensive weapons, but they still don't have their quarterback or their best offensive weapon, George Kittle, and they still don't have their best defensive weapon, Nick Bosa. And they've lost they lost a few other defensive players weren't there, but Sherman was back, Deebo Samuel was back, Raheem Mostert was back, and even that made a huge difference. And the hits keep coming for the San Francisco 49ers. You've heard now that they won't even be able to play in their home stadium or practice in their home county.
Right.
They have to find a new place. Yeah,
Arizona, right? Isn't the most likely at this point Arizona?
Possibly. They've talked about.
I think that's the last I saw.
About Southern California, yes, maybe Arizona. So that means they had two consecutive home games slated against Buffalo and against your Washington football team, and now, yet again, another curveball thrown the San Francisco 49ers way based on Santa Clara County officials deeming no contact sports in the next 3 weeks.
Isn't there a stadium in Southern California somewhere that could use a team?
Well, I think they run into some statewide issues as well there, don't they, Mark? Isn't that not as obviously locked down as Santa Clara, but there's some more issues with the government in California that I think make it easier, oddly, just to go to another state, really.
Yeah, there are some issues in California, but not as restrictive even in LA County as it is in Santa Clara County. So yet again, they found out on the plane going to Los Angeles via tweet. And so it's just very, Shanahan was very disappointed that, there was no heads up whatsoever regarding this. And that's just how it goes. But that's how this season has gone for the San Francisco 49ers.
And why not just pile it on this season?
Why
did you pile it on this season, Mark? Pile it on. Who cares? You had all those injuries and everything. Might as well all happen this year. Isn't this better than spreading it out over a couple of years, to lose, just lose everybody, don't get someplace to play. And hell, they go to Los Angeles, and the Rams are a different team at home than they are on the road. And, they just sort of owned their new stadium. People are not. And they went in there and won. So, on some just bizarro level, Mark, I have a feeling that there are guys on that team who are just playing football. That's it. Let's just play football because we control nothing else.
Yeah, they haven't. And I like what you just have it all happen at one time.
Why not?
It's the opposite of a team struggling to score runs, and then they score 12 runs in a game, and it's like, can you please spread this out?
Right. This is the opposite of that.
This way, though, this is the great. Exactly. Don't spread any of it out. Have it all happen in 2020. And it's just a nice win in terms of the team itself. Just picking up to a team that, beat Tampa Bay and beat Seattle. And yet they swept this year. So either Shanahan has their number or the 49ers just are a gritty team. Now they have to play Buffalo. They have to play Washington football team. They have to play Dallas. And then they have to play Arizona and Seattle to finish it out. So it's not going to be easy, but right now they're only a game out of the playoffs. But even the game in front if they were in the NFC East.
even if they don't make the playoffs, I just don't think it matters. Again, all these things happening to them, the fact they're winning football games, and we've seen teams that we question their effort. We spent way too much time talking about Dallas, and we questioned, the effort of guys. Maybe not so much the effort. It just seems like the Dallas players see the handwriting on the wall that it's going to be another lost season. But the 49ers aren't doing that. So credit to them, man. I'd have used that as my lock, frankly, a Los Angeles winning that football game. If the more I thought about it, because that just seemed like, if the 49ers kept it close, we would be excited for them. But you're right. The guy's coming back. Richard Sherman, I think, had a pick in that game. Deebo Samuel had a couple of really nice plays. So kudos to your team, Mark. Both of our teams coming out of this weekend, surprising everyone. And probably neither of them will make it to the playoffs.
And speaking of the NFC East, if you look at the remaining schedules of the Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Washington football team, they've got some tough games ahead. Realistically, I'm not sure that any of those four teams can win more than 2 games in the remaining 5. I would be surprised if they won 2. I will be surprised if anyone wins that division within 6. Seriously, it's not virtual lock, but I would say the odds are that the winner out of the NFC East is going to be 6-10 or 6-9, if the Eagles can get off the schneid.
Well, if you look at them, though, they're discussing, I guess, Jalen Hurts is going to be more involved with the offense, not taking over for Carson Wentz, who struggled mightily. Daniel Jones of the Giants, their quarterback, who is really starting to show what he can do. I mean, he's still a work in progress, but I think we would all agree, really week in and week out, the Giants have played hard every week, and Jones, particularly with his athleticism, but he got hurt yesterday. They don't know how serious that is. And of course, the Cowboys are a tire fire. Really, Washington, and this isn't just a homer, Washington's been the more consistently have put forth the most consistent good performances over the last couple of weeks. The Giants. So I think it's Washington and New York for the division at this point, and New York has the tiebreaker in that. So can they navigate if Daniel Jones is going to miss any games? But why in the hell are we talking about the NFC East? Because nobody's going to go in and win a playoff game from that division. We don't think, anyway. However, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's over, right?
It's fascinating.
Over. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are over. It's over, right? Best team in the NFC is Green Bay, right? I mean, these are absolutes. Maybe the best team in the NFC right now, the Atlanta Falcons. They beat a playoff caliber team and blew them out. So
I would say it's clearly the Atlanta Falcons is the best team in the NFC right now. No, the Green Bay Packers are fine. I don't know why I don't buy them. I don't buy them as the let's put it this way. I don't buy them as the NFC representative for the Super Bowl. And I really don't buy the Saints at the moment either. And they're the two teams fighting it out for the number 1 seed. And remember, only one team has a bye, and that's going to go a long way, because that means every other playoff team has to win 3 games to get to the Super Bowl. No, and the team with the bye, and it's New Orleans and Green Bay right now.
Right, and to your point, Mark, I don't see any team in the NFC, any playoff team or any playoff team even in the hunt that I look at and go, oh yeah, I'm comfortable that they can win 3 games. I'm really not. There are too many holes everywhere.
No.
Green Bay has that performance last night. And the Bears struggle offensively. They're just terrible offensively, but that's in theory a really good defense. But how many of us would be terribly surprised if they go out and they play a flat game? There's no consistency with that team either. And Aaron Rodgers has a tendency to press when things aren't going well. We saw what he did last night when things are going well. But the NFC confounds me at this point. And with the injuries in the quarterback position and Tampa Bay in a free fall, Tom Brady should start calling plays for the Buccaneers, in my estimation.
Again, they lost by a field goal against the Rams, and they lost by a field goal against the Chiefs. I'm not sure that means
they're in a free fall, Mark. They're in a free fall. They're in a free fall.
All right, so I do want to get into the schedules of the NFCs before we leave the NFCs because
You're
there's
obsessed.
it's not quite macabre. It's not quite macabre, but there is a fascination with this division because first of all, it's highly competitive. There's a half game that separates all four teams, and there was a half game that separated all four teams prior. I think there's maybe a little bit more than that. All right, so now the Washington football team coming up, they have to play Pittsburgh.
We lose him. I think we lost him.
He leaves it on that. They have to play Pittsburgh.
I see John again. Are you there? Can you hear me, John? Can you?
Yeah, we lost you. We
both
completely lost you, but you're back now.
All right, great. So they have Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That's probably a loss. At San Francisco, Niners are gritty. That could be a loss. Seattle, not easy. That's in Washington. Carolina, and then at Philadelphia. So I would say to win more than two of those games, I think is not – I would say the odds the Washington football team to win more than two of those games. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I would give them a chance in the 49ers game. I know that they're gritty, but with those injuries, certainly I think you would say Washington would have a chance. Pittsburgh, I mean, you chalk that up as a loss. And the Panthers and the Eagles, clearly they could win. They could win 3 games if they could beat 49ers. I think I find it. I'd be really surprised if the Seahawks don't beat them. But again, in the NFC, Mark, we've seen all of these teams that we've mentioned with Seahawks, with the exception of Pittsburgh, who's undefeated. I mean, we've seen all of these teams really play subpar games. Joe Connolly saying Philly is the best bet to win the division, and I think that's just simply benefit of the fact that they have a tie thrown in there. It gives them a half game up on just about everybody else in the division. Does it matter? Does any of this matter? Why are we talking about it? None of these teams are terrible.
It doesn't matter. Let's move on.
They're bad teams.
Let's move on to the AFC East. Where you've got the Dolphins, who took care of business yesterday. And isn't it interesting about the quarterback situation in Miami? I think that's highly fascinating right now. And then Buffalo Buffalo taking care of business as well. The AFC
and Buffalo
and New England hanging in.
Yeah, New England, a nice win by them. Boy, you look at New England, there were a couple of, that Cam Newton fumble a couple of weeks ago that they could have won that game. And he threw a bad interception yesterday, but then he came back and got them to within field goal range. We talked about defensively, if Bill Belichick is scheming against any team, he's going to hold, the offense down. He has the history of, maybe the best defensive coordinator in the history of the National Football League. And we saw it. We certainly saw that yesterday. That offense is just so, it is not a big play offense. They really don't have, they're never going to be able to go downfield on you. But if you can get you in a low scoring game, they're going to be tough to beat. I think Buffalo played as good a game as they played in a while yesterday. And you're right about Miami. I don't know. Can they continue down this track with sort of an unsettled quarterback position? Tua, I think, is one of the few guys, Mark, from everything that we've heard about his makeup, who might be able to handle kind of a 1A and 1B situation with Fitzpatrick down there, which is kind of what they have at this point, I think.
Well, and again, as Colin Cowherd has said before, with a lot of these decisions about starting a quarterback with Sean Payton, for instance, and Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston, you got to trust the coaching staff. You got to trust Flores and his coaching staff that they know what they have. They know what they have with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they know what they have with Tua. And and they know that this kid is a gamer, and he's just gonna do what he's told. Essentially, he's gonna go in when he was told. He's gonna go out when he's told. It's pretty fun. It's pretty interesting in terms of what the Dolphins are doing this year. Now it's the Jets, And the Jets could be truly one of the historic bad teams of all time.
Yeah, Darnold was terrible yesterday. He needs to get out of there.
Everyone needs to get out of
You're right.
The team needs to get out of New York.
Yeah, you're right.
The team needs to retire the name Jets and start over. And start with call them the Titans. You can't do the Titans. That's what they were at one point. The New York Titans.
Move them to Brooklyn and make them the football Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers football team.
There you go.
Just
go.
Do
the
that.
Brooklyn Dodgers. How bad can they be? What was the
first name of the Dodgers? It would be an appropriate name for next year because it looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to dodge them.
Yes.
Is that the latest? Is he going to stay another year, you think?
I don't think
for humor's sake, I made that fake news up.
Well, and I think actually Jeff is channeling all good human beings who simply don't want to see. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust, but I think he's a really good kid, and I don't want to see him in New York with the Jets. I would rather see him go to a good team and be a bust because that would make my prognostication all the more on point. But right. I think all good thinking, moral Americans and otherwise, all would like to see Trevor Lawrence dodge becoming the quarterback for the Jets. Because
maybe they just changed the name to the Superbas.
The Superbas, yes. There we go. That's revisiting a deep dive.
Speaking of, are we? I'm about ready to do a deep dive, Johnny.
I was a little nostalgic about it yesterday, and I think it was because, the Amazon Alexa every now and then just kind of reaches out to you, see how you're doing, checks in, and they check in on things that you've ordered. Hey, 2 months ago you ordered this. What would you rate it? And it actually popped in, and it was the book about the Steagles that I read. So it gave me a moment of thinking, wow, that was kind of fun doing that research. Yeah, I think we could talk about maybe sort of moving back into it again, but it's just there's so many things happening at once still. The idea that the NFL is staring down the face of, and more than one person said it now, they have to have in their arsenal right now the idea that they pause the season. They may have to pause the season at some point, given what's happened and what happened to watching Denver run nothing but the Wildcat yesterday.
Our friend and perhaps future co-host Pete Zicki of After Further Review texted me and said, when's the last time an NFL game had less than 100 passing yards between both teams?
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
It was I think they had 70 yards or something, the Saints with Taysom Hill, and they had 19, 15 yards, whatever it is, the Denver Broncos.
One completion.
Just ridiculous. And this that's an issue. How many players for the Ravens now have tested positive?
Well, there are 56 active players on the roster. I believe 58 of them now have COVID. So,
and yet they're still going to play a game tomorrow.
A couple of guys have it really bad, so they just added on to it. I probably shouldn't joke about that, but it's and it's more than one team dealing with it. I think the Denver situation. Now that's happened before. Famously Tom Maddie, the running back, played quarterback for the Colts. His wristband, which this is long before they had all the plays on the wristband. He had them all on a wristband, and it's in the Hall of Fame. You can see it in the Hall of Fame. It's such a rudimentary thing, but that had happened before. I'm surprised it hadn't happened more this season because you that's the problem with this is you have position guys together. It's easy to lose an entire position room, which is what happened with Denver. Now, apparently guys didn't follow protocol 100%, but good Lord. Will we have to pause the season? I think that's the big question right now.
Well, we can get into the NCAA a little bit later, but it is that the NCAA scares me more than the NFL does, to tell you the truth.
It does, but my thinking with the NCAA, and sorry to cut you off, Mark, but my thinking with the NCAA is the fact that because we have the different conferences, you're going to have a couple of conferences that wrap up their season. You may not get through all of your games out in the Pac-12 now because there were so few to begin with. But I think, the SEC is going to plow through. I think the ACC will plow through, and probably the Big 12 as well, though they're, insignificant at this point. But in the NFL, it's the one league, and if you have to pause for even a couple of weeks, it's going to be really, really difficult. Though I think we all agree NFL can push their playoffs well into February and even early March. Really wouldn't make that big of a difference, frankly, for most of us.
Probably. I guess not. That, what happens in February? I mean, literally, what happens in February in the sports world? I mean, there's college basketball, and there's hockey, and the NBA.
Yeah, regular season. NBA
no one
and
really
NHL.
Cares about the NBA in February. No one really cares about.
Well,
the
games
NHL.
are only on the weekends too. I mean, you're only talking about taking up their weekends. But you're right. I mean, end of February you start conference tournaments for college basketball. Let's see how that goes, because college basketball is going to be difficult. But yeah, they do have the luxury of being able to push back into even early March. I think we'll see. But that's my concern, because don't you agree? The ACC and the SEC definitely are going to power through the rest. And I think the Big Ten will as well, now that they've started playing.
As best they can, but Wisconsin, is it Wisconsin that's already canceled a couple of games? And Ohio State may not.
They may not qualify.
They may not qualify. They may not have enough games played. Northwestern has played themselves out of contention now after their loss on Saturday. So we can get back to that, but we'll stick with the NFL right now briefly. Let's go to we've talked a little bit about the AFC East, the AFC North. Of course, Cleveland continues to play well,
and I mean nobody's impressed other than they really do. They kind of prove that adage that if you can run the football well, and they run the football very well, you can win some games. But they're Baker Mayfield is simply a game manager at this point, and they better find some level of dynamic passing game if they want to move forward. They probably wish they were playing in the NFC, to be quite frank.
Yes, exactly. So you've got the South. Now the Titans have emerged as the leaders in the South.
That was a hell of a win for them yesterday.
They played out of their minds. Derrick Henry played out of his mind.
He's a beast.
He is a beast. But in the end, even with the Kansas City Tampa Bay game, it feels like Ohio State, Indiana. It just seems like Kansas City is going to win no matter what. It just seems like as long as they have the ball last, it doesn't matter if their defense lets them down a little bit. They were in control of that game 27-10, and before you know it, it's 27-24.
Yep.
And but it doesn't matter. They could be behind 17. They could be up 17 and give up 16 points. It feels inevitable with Kansas City. It really does. Well, and it doesn't feel inevitable with any other team in the NFL.
I agree with you.
Steelers, including the Saints or the Packers.
I agree, but remember what I said the other day, and I still hold these two thoughts in my mind, which is that, to your point, that Kansas City has a great chance to repeat, because they are I think that they are on the best football team in the NFL right now. Head and shoulders, I believe. The other side of that, though, is I could see upsets galore in the playoffs because of the way this season is playing out. And, Kansas City is a COVID test away from, playing a game without Patrick Mahomes.
Just seems like Patrick Mahomes will follow all protocols. Just seems like
COVID's not going to mess with him. Not going to mess with him.
Yeah. I'm staying away from Kansas City.
As much as you'd like to play it safe, there is always that possibility. And, I think some teams might be looking at, God, I'd rather have somebody have a positive COVID test in October than December or January. So we'll see. But I agree with you. I think all signs point to the fact, to your point, that Kansas City, if they have the ball last, they're going to beat you.
All right, I have to do a little sidebar because of the comments happening here, and there was a comment from Joe, who threw a little Molotov cocktail into the show, which is great. He said that why wouldn't Denver sign Kaepernick for one game? You can talk about playbook stuff. You could talk about not ready, but obviously he'd be as ready, at least as ready as the wide receivers on the team.
Yeah.
And then Jeff chimed in that half the fans would protest. And I want to bring that up. Do you really think at this point in time,
do they have
after
fans
all of these years
in those games?
Well, I don't even know.
I don't know if Denver's got any. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on out there.
I don't even know if Denver allows people at the stadium.
Yeah.
But I guess your overall point, Jeff, is that just dealing with whatever fallout, media-wise, whatever blowback, regardless, it's just too much of a pain to even consider.
It has nothing to do with the past. It has to do with the fact that once you sign him, the arm, the legs come with the mouth. He's not going to come in and be quiet. He's proven that when he got a chance to try out for a team, he changed the plays. His brain and his mouth are his problem. It's not his athleticism. And Lenny just threw out something that's even less likely, Tim Tebow, and not because the Broncos won't go out and sign Tim Tebow. There is no way Tim Tebow would play for the Broncos again. He's going to say no on that one.
Because they traded him?
Yeah, that whole situation. I mean, the guy looked like he could be their quarterback for years to come, and they
never looked like he could be their quarterback for years to come.
I think
he had a little bit of success, but to say that he looked like he could be their quarterback,
he beat the Steelers in a playoff game.
Okay.
When
he did.
Yes, yeah, great, nice. Yep, absolutely. Breakdown and coverage of the Steelers. You're absolutely right. And Tebow, give him credit. He would look horrific through most of the game, and if they were in it, he had magic at the end. I don't dislike Tim Tebow, but the idea that Tim Tebow ever played consistently enough to be the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos just simply isn't the truth.
I don't know that he ever got an opportunity to play consistently enough. Did he?
Well,
he
started games
for a season. I know he started games, but it was always with someone else waiting in the wings. There was always, we want you to be a tight end. We don't want you to be a quarterback. He was never given an opportunity to be the starting quarterback on any of the teams he ever played for.
He started the last, I think, 6 or 7 regular season games for the Broncos that year, and then won that playoff game against the Steelers.
And I think he had to win some of those games to get them to the playoffs, right?
Oh, and they won games inexplicably. I mean, it was a great run.
Their defense kept them in, about it. Their defense kept them in games, low-scoring games that he did. But he had magic at the end.
He really did, and it was a really fun thing to watch. There's no doubt about it. I was rooting for him the entire time. I was rooting for him to continue to move on the entire time.
He's the polar opposite of Colin Kaepernick. He doesn't have the God-gifted athleticism, height, all of those things, but he's got it in his head and in his mouth. And so I think that he'd be a better bet, but they're not going to go for it.
No, he wouldn't. The idea that he would be a better bet than Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. First of all, I wouldn't have signed Colin Kaepernick either, and it has nothing to do with his mouth, which I just don't agree with that assessment at all. It has to do with the fact that it would be a one-game situation. Where I think the NFL made mistakes was not bringing Kaepernick in when you were going to have him for an entire season. There's no reason to bring him in just to play a game. Once these guys get out of COVID protocol, now you're going to have all the quarterbacks who have been there and knew the offense. And I would argue that the guys who are there, even though they're wide receivers, obviously know the offense, better than a guy coming in off the street. So I don't think that was a good situation. I do believe Colin Kaepernick should be playing in the NFL, but I don't think, the situation with the Denver quarterback room was a situation where you would have brought Colin Kaepernick. And I'm a huge Colin Kaepernick fan, but I wouldn't have brought him in that situation either.
Yeah, I feel like they have accepted all of the social justice messaging. They've gotten to a point where everybody's sort of living together, and they feel like if they bring Colin Kaepernick in, he's going to be a spark plug for it to become huge again, where right now everybody seems to be even keel with it. And I feel like that's going into the decisions that are being made.
The other thing, too, is to John's point, is that to bring someone in like that is probably first and foremost the reason why they didn't do that. They didn't bring anyone in. They didn't bring anyone in.
Because it's just a COVID protocol.
Wide receiver. They would rather have a wide receiver start your game and complete one pass for 19 yards or whatever the hell it was than bring in some rando
right
off the street.
If two of those quarterbacks, if the starting quarterback and maybe the backup guy were going to be gone for the rest of the season, then yeah, obviously you're going to probably want to bring in somebody. And at that point, you can talk about either Tebow or Kaepernick. I don't care. I mean, I like both of those guys, and I'd like to see them. I think Tim Tebow would have fit in a Taysom Hill sort of way. I don't think he ever would have been a starting quarterback. I watched him for years at Florida. He just he couldn't throw people open was the problem. And if you look at that Steeler game, his wide receiver was wide open. He just didn't have the cannon to throw people open. That notwithstanding, I think if those guys had been missing, we're going to be missing for weeks, but just having a couple of guys out for a week. And you wonder too, did Denver, did they assume when this happened that they might be given a break, a la, the Baltimore Ravens, who seemingly we will do everything we can to make sure that they get to play a game.
With their personnel. I don't, James Conner's going to be gone now for the Steelers. I don't know what the NFL is thinking. There was a Denver player that mentioned that the NFL, all they did was try to make an example of the Broncos. They wanted to make an example. Maybe they were blatant with their protocols that they didn't follow. I think, who was it? One of them that tested positive, one of the quarterbacks, and of course the other three were around that quarterback without a mask on.
Yeah.
So perhaps they did that. Perhaps it was a last-minute thing that they couldn't get a new quarterback in there. But it does seem like anyone who knows the quarterback position, even if they don't know the offense, would have been better than 1 of 9 for 17 yards.
Hindsight, yes.
Really?
In hindsight, you look at it and you see, that would have been the case. But I do think last minute, the fact that it would just be 1 week, you're not a team. Again, I think the NFL they will say that they're not thinking this way, but of course they are. Baltimore is a playoff caliber football team that is in the mix. Denver, this is a rebuilding year for Denver, so you're not going to. Whether they win or lose that game yesterday wouldn't really meant anything.
You're going to make the example of the Broncos more than you are of the.
Sure, it's like you cut the guy on your team. If all your guys go out and break curfew, you don't cut your superstar. You cut the guy who's the last guy on the bench, and Denver's the last guy on the bench.
What's funny to me is that they have a guy under contract, paid very well, that could have stepped in and done better than the wide receiver guy.
John Elway.
Yes.
John, I don't like John Elway, but I will say I think 57-year-old John Elway probably went,
I'm going to pass. I've seen that offensive
I've seen our offensive line. Yes, exactly. General manager.
It was Jeff Driscoll who probably broke protocol because,
former Florida Gator.
Exactly. So, it's a hoax to guys like Jeff Driscoll. Everyone around him was without a mask. So.
I'm sure. Just
all right.
He was at some super spreader get together. I'm sure. Sturgis, South Dakota, or wherever that big super spreader event.
All right. So if anyone doesn't look this up, this is the trivia question. It's taken a long time to get here. But in terms of most games played in the National Football League, the first dozen or so, roughly, maybe not a dozen, maybe half dozen, are kickers or punters. And they've had the most games. They, are able to avoid injury for all that time.
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of the most games, there is one position player that was also a kicker. And so I'm not going to include him. Mm-hmm. And that was George Blanda, who was a quarterback for a long time, but also was a kicker for a lot of years.
Yes, he was.
So who is the first position player outside of George Blanda? Who is the first player have the most games played in the National Football League for a career all time? First position player, top 10, I think, overall in games played. Please do not look it up. Please do not Google this. Please. I implore you. It's so good. It's so easily Googleable.
Yeah, it is.
So there it is. So
can I guess?
There it is. Do you have a guess off the top of your head? Yeah.
Well, off the top of my head, and I know this isn't right, but I'm going to say two things. First of all, I'm pretty sure it's an offensive lineman. And I was going to say Joe Thomas of the Browns, because I know he played many, many years and didn't get injured. I think it's an offensive line. Joe Conley may actually have gotten it right. That may have been a better guess.
It was. It's not Clay Matthews, and it is not Joe Thomas.
Right. I did
It is not an offensive. It is not an offensive lineman.
not an offensive lineman. Okay.
I have a guess off the top of my head. Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders is incorrect as well. Deion Sanders is incorrect as well.
Yeah, because he never
Clay Matthews
he got involved in, Deion Sanders got involved in fewer tackles than most kickers and punters. So clearly he's not going to get injured.
Clay Matthews is 23rd. Joe Thomas.
No,
I'm looking. I'm scrolling down the page. That
right.
is.
It's okay.
10,
I said it. I didn't think
10
it was right.
seconds away from any listener right now. So that's how easy this question is if they were to cheat. All right. So let's talk about the NCAA. Before we do that, if you're to say the Super Bowl matchup right now, John Pelkey, who would it be? Kansas City and who?
If I had to pick right now, I would say Kansas City and Seattle.
Ooh,
Still.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
just think if anybody's going to win 3 games, the unsettled quarterback situation in New Orleans is an issue. Drew Brees, I believe, cracked. I believe every bone in his body was broken. In fact, I believe Joe Biden's hairline fracture happened on the sack of Drew Brees. So many bones were broken during that. I mean, it started out, it was like he's got 6. Now it's like 11 up to 13. I would say them if it weren't for that. So what I'm going to look at right now is the teams that are there, the quarterback play that you get, and I would give Russell Wilson the nod over, again, Green Bay. Maybe I should be more excited about Green Bay, but they just seem like pretenders to me. They
do to
really
me
do.
too.
They
They
really
do to me too. But I would say right now I would guess them.
Well, of
Only
course, they
because
came off the big win.
They may get the bye. They may get the bye, and then they may get there might be an upset somewhere along the line, and so they get sort of an easier out, and then they have to win one game to get there. And I don't think they're that mismatched against any team like they were last year against the 49ers in the championship game. The thing about Seattle is I can see that point. That would be my next pick. But I think there is something about Pete Carroll, his era, Pete Carroll's arc, his what is it? Whatever the historical chronological history is that he gets a team, he turns them around, he wins a championship, and then he stays at an excellent level for a long, long time, but never quite gets to the top again. That was his history at USC, and that's his history in Seattle. And I think it's actually going exactly according to Hoyle with what he did at USC. I can see them getting to a championship game. I can see them getting to, winning a playoff game, maybe 2. I don't see them getting to the Super Bowl for some reason. And I agree with you about Green Bay. I don't buy them.
Yeah.
But if they happen to get the bye and there's an upset somewhere and the Giants, they have to play the Giants in the, in the divisional round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden now all they have to do is beat the Rams, say, or even the Seahawks in the championship game. I think they could probably do that, frankly.
Yeah.
And so Green Bay, Kansas City, which would be okay. But, I'd love to see the Cardinals sneak in, even though they're just, they are.
Are people beginning to figure out Kyler Murray a little bit? Here's what I think they're beginning to realize, that if you hope to slow him down, you have to slow his running down first. It's, I think people are focusing on that a little more because he is a good passer, but it's really that extra added ability to run and what he can do in the open field. Barry Sanders in the open field, for God's sake. I think that they're starting to find that. Now you need the personnel, Mark, to be able to do that.
And you need to kind of shut down Hopkins as well, or at least contain Hopkins.
Yeah. So you can
know
double
what it
up
is?
on him.
It's that pressure up the middle, John. Mm-hmm. It's that pressure right up the middle. So he doesn't have a chance to get outside. He doesn't. That's where you can get him.
Yeah. But you need the people to do that.
You do.
But to your point, with them, what if they came up against a team like the Washington football team that has such a great defensive front? I think those are the teams that are going to have a level of success against him. So even if they do get to the playoffs, it's going to be difficult for them because I think they're ahead of schedule. I think we would all agree. No one really expected them to be better, but I don't think we expected them necessarily to be a playoff team. It is COVID year, so things are a little bit off. But they're a bit ahead of schedule, so their matchup is going to be really important for them if they were to get to the playoffs, which isn't a foregone conclusion. I believe as of right now, they're not in.
No, they're the last team in.
They are the last team. Okay.
Yeah, they're the last team in at the moment. All right, so that's it. So you say Seattle, Green Bay, which isn't much different from what I mean. Seattle, Kansas City,
Kansas City.
Derek Abbott's pick, and I think many experts pick ahead of time. Kansas City, Green Bay. That's not that outrageous either. So we'll see what happens with all these machinations, and it ends up being, the 2 number 1 seeds out of each conference.
Well,
that would be
2020. 2020.
It would be.
Yeah, I
and
mean
that normally doesn't happen. It normally does not. The number 1 seeds do not. Both number 1 seeds making it to the Super Bowl is less than 50% overall. So it usually does not happen. All right.
And I think what we're finding in a team and in a year, and I'm sorry, I've just buttoned this by saying that in a year where there's less practice, there's less preseason, there's not as much probably free agency signing, is that those top seeded teams are usually the teams with the most talent. And they're rising to the top.
Yeah.
In this year, you're seeing the teams with the most in every sport, really. That's what you're looking at. So
yeah,
you're probably right.
Who stays the healthiest and everything else. So it is not Tom Brady, not Clay Matthews, not Joe Thomas. Again, first position player outside of George Blanda, who did both, who did a lot of kicking and did a good amount of quarterbacking as well.
Tony Gonzalez.
That's a good guess. That's a very good guess. He's right up there. I think he's actually the tight end with the most games played in his career. So that's a good guess, but he's not the first position player on the list.
All right.
Please avoid the Google. Please avoid the Google.
No, not Googling.
I know you're not. Okay, let's go to the NCAA. Looks like Florida State's done with their season, probably, right? They're probably not going to play another game.
One wonders.
They may not play another game.
No, and it's 2 in a row that were game day cancellations, too, with that.
Well, it's 3 total. Yeah.
3 total, but 2 that were the morning of.
Yeah. The morning of. Teams have already obviously flown in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, nah, not going to happen.
Yeah. It's very odd why they're getting results as late as they are, why these things are coming down as late as they are for them. But I mean, it's a tire fire over there anyway. So they're probably better part of valor not to play if you're Florida State at this point.
It's protocols. It's people being exposed to people that have tested positive and that they have to be in quarantine, this, that, and the other. So really tough. Big Ten. Who knows if the Big Ten is going to be represented in the college football playoff, John? Yeah,
that's the issue because they may not meet the, who would have thunk the fact that maybe the Pac-12, now they'll play themselves out of it clearly, but you may have teams in the Pac-12 that play more games than teams in the Big Ten.
And yet, point. Oregon, USC's game I think was canceled, so USC's only going to play 5 games.
Yep,
and they're the only chance for a Pac-12 team to get in because yet again, Oregon loses to Oregon State.
What a great football game. What a great. I texted you, Mark. What was
you did.
The most entertaining, never will win a championship conference is the Pac-12. That Oregon,
in the history of all sports.
That Oregon State game was as entertaining. I mean, I in a year where everything has gone wrong, it felt just so normal to be watching a nighttime game, Oregon State, with one team with everything on the line and one team with nothing on the line, knowing full well that the team with nothing on the line would end up eliminating the team with everything on the line because it's the Pac-12. And they're really kicking themselves, to your point, because with what's happening in the Big Ten, the door might have been wide open for Oregon to get a shot.
Yeah. And of course, like I say, SC is only going to play 5 games. It's a wacky season. And of course, this is the whole thing, John. You alluded to it earlier. From all indications, this whole pandemic we may be out of the woods, really almost totally out of the woods by late spring because of the vaccines and because of just the natural progression of these kinds of influenzas, these H1N1s usually have a 2-year cycle,
Mhm.
plus the vaccines. By May, certainly by June, I think a lot of us think that we could be completely out of the woods.
Fingers crossed.
But we also think that these next 2 months, 3 months, January, February could be brutal. December could be brutal.
Yeah.
November was brutal.
Yep.
And people are going to travel at Christmas time as well. Who knows what the ramifications of Thanksgiving? Fingers crossed. I'll be doing a test. I'll be doing another test on Wednesday.
1 and 3. Mark.
Yes. At any rate, who knows what's going to happen with the NFL and with the NCAA? We don't know. It is as if the NCAA college basketball tournament. It is as if the NBA and the NHL in March, because we're looking at numbers now that are not that far off from April and May in terms of kids. The cases are blowing them away because we didn't have a lot of testing then.
Right.
But the deaths are inching up to what we had then. The scariest part of the pandemic, it's as if they all went full speed ahead, because that's what the NFL and the NCAA.
Well, we always knew
doing
that.
Right now.
We always knew that the issue was when the weather gets colder for any of these things. It's much tougher in cold weather, and they went barreling ahead into cold weather. But to your point, Mark, I think we're going to see. I think we will get a college football playoff in. Whether it's the week that it's planned for, the weekends that it's planned for at this point, it may get pushed back. I do, however, believe, and we've already had one cancellation. I think, Mark, this will be a happy holiday season for you. Depending on how your test turns out after the questionable travel. I think you've got a happy holiday season in front of you, because I think there are going to be more bowl games that they simply can't populate the bowl games with teams. I just think there are going to be too many teams that are going to have to.
That will be a very happy holiday season for me.
That'll suck.
No. We do not need to see.
I need Army. I need Army and Wake Forest and the Bell Helicopter Bowl. I need that. Those are my needs. Why would you take that away from me? What? You're so selfish. We've seen it now. It's all been illustrated. Mr. Extra super left wing liberal, still picking on people who think the thing's a hoax. Yet you've spread your droplets all across the eastern seaboard and now West Coast. Honestly, just and now
I'm not out there though. I'm not the Denver mayor or whoever it was who said the Denver mayor. He actually posted a video. He said, "Please do not travel at Thanksgiving."
You got on a plane. Yeah, I know.
He tweeted that while he was waiting to get on the plane.
No, I'm telling you.
Is that true? That's the truth. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
he did.
Gosh.
Yeah. Hypocrisy.
I have not
everywhere.
been like that, John. I have not told people not to travel at Thanksgiving. Oh, by the way, I have a plane to catch. No, I've not been that bad.
You didn't even tell us you were traveling. You were there before I knew it. Jody's like,
I know, because I was afraid of the judgment of my
Well, you're still getting it. So I don't know.
I for a while I thought, could I possibly do shows and just not let them know ever? Could I possibly? I considered that. I did consider that.
Hey, I would like to put in my 2 cents on this. I think that hundreds, if not thousands, of young men who have spent their entire lives practicing to play a sport that have gone through 3, maybe 4 years of college should definitely not get a chance to play in a bowl game. So Mark will be happy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, as long as you're happy, Mark. As long as that you want to take, again, robbing people of their dreams is what Mark does. Mark robs you of your dreams.
Is it a dream to play in the Idaho Potato Bowl? Is that
for some kid that'll be selling used cars in 2 weeks? Yeah.
I think it's a dream to go play in a bowl game. I think going to play in a bowl, you get good swag, Mark. They get great swag. My buddy played in the Peach Bowl. You get like swag. You get to go. You get to say, your program. Obviously, if you're in a bowl game, most of the time you're over 500. You've had an over 500
go
season.
Through life as they're selling a car, as they're selling a Hyundai Sonata to someone in Pocatello, Idaho. Are they going to tell them at one point in time, I played in the Idaho Potato Bowl? And that's something they can never take away from me.
Yes, they are absolutely going to do that.
They will not ever say that or think that.
I disagree with you. I think guys will be very excited that they got to play in bowl games in college.
You see this ring right here? This is because we were able to beat Louisiana Tech in the
good program
in the Peoria You know, in the Peoria.
No, come on, let's go.
Bowl,
Let's go, improv
Peoria
boy.
Flyover Bowl. I was able to beat Louisiana Tech, and no one can ever take that away from me. It's like,
Yeah, played college ball, won a bowl game. That's a small percentage of people who get that.
You've got 10 years of picking up barflies easily.
Yeah,
with that story.
yeah. If you do that and you play for Wake Forest, you don't buy a dinner in Winston-Salem ever again. Particularly if you win. If you're selling insurance, it's like, hey,
I don't think so. I don't
get it
think
from
people
Johnny.
in-
He was.
I don't think people in Winston-Salem care that much about the Wake Forest. I really don't.
More than people in Wake Forest do.
Now that's the thing, is that if I have a college football team that finishes 6-5 every year, and they make it to these lower tier bowls every year, it's like, really? Do people really care about? Do they really care that much?
Do you know who the quarterback that played for the Broncos this past season? Do you know where he played quarterback in college?
Are we talking about Drew Lock?
No, the kid that played for them and had one completion.
Oh,
and 2
yesterday,
interceptions.
1 of 9. No, I don't know where he played in college.
Wake
Forest.
Wake Forest.
Yes.
There it is.
Demon Deacons, baby.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Yes.
Mark, I completely, I know this is all for humor's sake, but I
It is.
completely disagree.
And you know
I
that
think
I'm.
playing it right. I mean, you and I have achieved nothing in life.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
honestly,
I agree.
except
Why in
the
the world would I take
disdain-
anything away from anyone?
the disdain of the people around us is all we've ever earned.
That's true. That is true.
I wish I could say that I had, played in the.
I
Peach
guess
Bowl
that's
or
the difference between us, John. I'm not putting anyone else down. I'm saying I don't wish I could say that. That is not a dream I would ever have, that I played college ball and made the Weed Eater Bowl.
John, you made a mistake thinking he was putting other people down, because
Yeah.
he definitely wasn't doing that at all.
I'm not putting anyone else down.
You're such an elitist. I mean, honestly, Mark,
I'm not putting
you're the
He doesn't even
hypocritical-
realize it.
Mark.
I'm
it's
not
the
putting them
hypocritical
down. I'm
leftist
just saying
elitist.
I'm not putting them down. Jeff,
You
I'm not
are.
putting them down. No, I'm not.
Look
I'm
at
saying
my ring from the Poinsettia Bowl. This
yes,
isn't putting
exactly.
you down.
I'm not putting them down.
You want Bluetooth on your Sonata?
I'm saying I'm putting them up. If you think about it, I'm putting them up because I'm saying you have more worth than hanging everything on a ring and telling someone they can't take that away from me. You have more worth as a human than worrying about picking up barflies.
Well, I don't
know,
think Mark.
No,
for
you have more
away.
worth. I'm putting them up, Jeff. You're keeping them at a low stereotypical.
I'm dizzy from the
level.
spin.
Boy, I tell you what. Good Lord.
No, it's the truth. It's
Oh,
the
come
truth. It's just seen past the first layer. That's all it is. We have to examine
But
things past the first layer.
But that's an achievement, and
And
you
the first layer, picking up barflies is not an achievement.
But playing college football and playing on a team that's good enough to go and play in a bowl game and be I think that is an achievement. And so we discuss the achievements that we've had in life. I'm not saying that's
And
all
I guess
you
that's
are.
that's where we disagree, because at one point playing in a bowl game was an achievement, John. That's the ultimate point I'm making.
You are
At one point,
How
it
does
took a
this
lot to
hurt
get
you?
to a bowl game. Now you win 6 games and you get to a bowl game. That's not an accomplishment if you've
Show
won
us up
6
the door
games.
where the bowl game touched you.
Yeah, really, honestly,
No, seriously, John. Don't you think that it doesn't
beaten up
mean
by
as much
Astro
anymore?
Bluebonnet players at some point, or God
I
Almighty?
had a very bad experience at the Liberty Bowl one time.
Did you?
and,
Well, Memphis, no.
oh yeah. Those people in Tennessee do not care for me. And at any rate, don't you think it was worth a lot more 30 years ago, making it to a bowl? I mean, let's just start there with this discussion.
Well, if you consider, listen, obviously,
yes or no?
If
Come
there,
on now. Yes or no, Johnny?
My answer is going to be more nuanced than that. I know you don't want nuance, Mark. I know you don't.
No,
I know
one
it's
does, John. Haven't
MSNBC
you-
or
you-
OAN.
you-
There's
do
no
you
in between
follow-
for you. It's
Do
got
you
to
follow
be.
elections? No one wants nuance.
I
John.
know,
No
but
one
there's
wants
more.
nuance.
Here's the thing: was it when there were fewer bowls and fewer teams got to the bowls? Then I guess you could say, in some way, that's more impressive. But I'm not like you. I don't think that if you're on a team that's good enough to go to a bowl game, and I know your argument will be you're 6-5. What difference does any of that make? Well,
No, that is my argument. If you're a 500 team back in the day, that wasn't a good enough team to make it to a bowl game. That's my biggest thing, guys. Seriously, that's where this all comes from. Is that to go to 35 or 40 or 45 bowls, whatever it is, and to make and to qualify, I think it's 87 bowls as of 2019.
174 teams that are.
I
playing
think
No,
really
if
the
you're a
juxtaposition.
500 team, if you're a 500 team, that's not good enough to make a bowl, at least in my mind.
I think with out of conference games and the juxtaposition between the Power 5 and the non-Power 5 schools, a team that goes 6-4, 5-5 that plays in the MEAC is happy to go to a bowl because they had to play these teams that were significantly better than them because of where they are or the recruiting. It's not these kids. These kids don't think about I didn't win 10 games. They think about I made it to college. I am playing on a team. I wasn't good enough to go to Alabama, but I'm here at Southern Louisiana School for the Nuns, and I'm playing Northern California School for the Rabbis, and that's my competition.
That's a big matchup. That's a big matchup.
Oh boy,
I
like
think
that.
I think that those kids that go to those, in other words, I don't think that teams from outside the Power 5 usually play more than one Power 5 team in a season. It's their own conference they're up against, and if they win their conference,
my question,
or if they come in second in their conference, then that's a great accomplishment. Phenomenal accomplishment. And I'm not saying it's not an accomplishment just to be on a college football team either. I'm not.
Yeah.
What I'm putting down, I'm not putting down the players. I'm putting down the bowls. I'm putting down the naked money grab out there for all of these companies and all of these sponsors. And you know, and we all know the money doesn't go to the community. The money goes to, you know, perhaps the conference, perhaps, you know, but how much money really does the Weed Whacker Bowl make? My point is that if you're from a mid-level conference, if you're from a mid-level conference and you finish 500, that never used to be the case. If you win your conference, if you're second in your conference, if you finish with 7 wins or more, they had to have a meeting. They had to have a huge meeting to officially deem it that if you win 6 games, you qualify for a bowl. I think it diminishes the coolness of going to a bowl. I think that's an obvious point.
I think I can answer your question with both answers. Yes, it was more important to people that are not playing in the game when there were less bowls that someone went to a bowl. No, I don't think it was more important to the people that are playing in those games. I think that making a bowl now is just as important to those kids as making a bowl was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah. I don't think that the diminishment that there's any diminishment for obviously the players. I think the schools, the fans get to go have an extra football game. Again, I think you know the vast majority of those guys playing college football, there are only so many games you get to play, and you get to play an extra game against a team you wouldn't otherwise play. And remember, most of the time when it's like the 6-5 teams and the 500 teams, those are usually the Power 5 conference teams that you would argue, well, you know, if they were playing in the Big 12, hell. But if you were playing in the MAC or something, they would be, you know, an 8-win team, a 9-win team. So I just, you know, Lenny's pointing out there were 11 bowl games in 1975.
That was a good year.
Yeah.
Great year.
It really was. Astro Bluebonnet among the bowl games in 1975, I believe, always was one of my favorites. But I don't understand your disdain for it, Mark. I never, ever will. It's kind of like your disdain for reality television in many ways.
And look what it got us. It got us 4 years of a reality show country is what it got us. And so everyone,
it
got us 4 years of a reality show country.
I would like a low level.
I'm saying both sides involved in that. I'm not blaming.
I would like a low level bowl game society. Then that's what I want now. I want a Poulan Weed Eater Bowl society. I think we'd be better people because of it. To be frank. All right. I just don't understand why it bothers you so much. Why you don't have to watch them.
No.
And you don't.
No, it doesn't really bother me. This is all for.
It does sort of bother you though.
This is grist
It does
for the
sort of.
mill. No, it's eye rolling to me.
You're annoyed. You're annoyed by it.
When I see the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl or the Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl or the Cheribundi Boca Raton Bowl or the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl.
Well, it's just the names that are bugging you now.
Well, no, it's just the Cure Bowl. I mean, what?
AT Cure. It's the AT Cure, right? AT Cure.
It's FBC Mortgage Cure.
Mortgage Cure. Oh, okay. I thought it was the AT Cure.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's a little eye rolling. It doesn't really bother me.
So it's just the name.
And this is grist for the mill. The Camellia Bowl, Arkansas State and Florida International. Was that a
Camellia, though? Camellia Bowl, that
FIU?
should bother you. That should bother you even less. That should bother you even less because that's like the Peach Bowl. Back when we were guys, it was the Gator Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and they didn't have all of the tie-ins. But that's just
Yeah, the Weed Eater Bowl is the Independence Bowl, which has been around since 1976.
Yeah, it's an old one.
The Weed Eater Bowl is FIU last year in the Camellia Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the game and they finished their season 6-7.
They were 6-6.
Okay, that's a bowl. That's what an accomplishment.
So,
Seriously.
So the payout to the schools for the Independence Bowl is $2.2 million.
Yeah.
For what school? For the Camellia Bowl?
Both teams,
for the Independence Bowl, for the Weed Eater Bowl.
They split $2.2 million.
So what's the Camellia Bowl? How do you spell Camellia? Is it like chameleon?
CAMELIA, right? Camellia.
Double L, 2 L's there. That's all. But yes, that's essentially right. The Camellia Bowl, Arkansas State and FIU. I'm sure
75 Tangerine Bowl, Mark. 7-5 South Carolina in the 75 Tangerine Bowl. I didn't hear you.
300 grand.
They were 7-5. They
300 grand per school for the Camellia Bowl.
Yeah, it's a nice. Okay. It's a nice amount of money. Brings money. Joe Conley pointing you bringing money into the area. A lot of folks go and. Yeah. How would you dispute that? They have to stay in hotels and they have to eat in restaurants. So yeah, there's going to be a financial boon for those communities. God, Mark, you are the dream.
16,209 in attendance for the Camellia Bowl. Pretty good attendance.
60?
16,000. I don't think they play in a 60,000 stadium.
Seriously, in what world is 16,000 pretty good attendance?
Basketball and baseball.
If you're having
the capacity of the stadium they play
sport. So your answer is another sport.
The capacity for that stadium is only 25,000, so it's 3/4 of the way full.
If you're having a book signing, and your book is about economic repercussions of Reconstruction, and 16,000 people show up, you're doing damn well, Mark. God, you're the dream crusher. Now you're opposed. Now you're opposed to authors. Now it's any sort of authorship is now an issue.
I've never said anything like that. Hang on. Now now did you say that the stadium held 25,000, Jeff?
That's right.
Okay, so a 25,000 stadium, a 25,000 capacity stadium couldn't even be sold out.
That looks like that's true.
3/4 of it, 16,000.
What? But how does this hurt you?
It doesn't hurt me.
In any way does this bother you? Why is this a problem for you? Giving people more opportunity.
It's not really a problem.
The dream opportunity crusher.
Yeah, participation trophy. You're the guy that always puts that down.
I don't
much care for a trophy. Give everyone a trophy. You always put that down, and yet because it's your favorite sport, you defend it.
I'm just saying.
Participation trophies.
I like the bowl games because it pits teams that you don't see playing against each other, and I like that.
Right. And I
like the cross-sectional
FIU against Arkansas State.
I know you don't.
16,000 people.
You're an elitist.
You're an elitist.
You buy top shelf vodka, even though all vodka comes from the same distillery. It's all the same.
I really don't. There's nothing about me in terms of my material possessions that indicates any elitism whatsoever, John.
There is an intellectual elitism about you. That's why we have to go to Ferrero Land, because you can't believe anybody would not 100% be behind you. And this whole thing with the bowl games. It started with. Why would I watch that? And now it's like you shouldn't watch it. That's what it went to. Yeah, that is exactly what you're saying.
Well, that's true. I am. I say
you're saying you shouldn't watch it.
They shouldn't. They just shouldn't be there. They just shouldn't exist.
There it is.
The Camellia Bowl and all 16,000 people and Arkansas State and an under 500 FIU team. That's just, to me, I will say this seriously. To me, that doesn't feel like a bowl game. It doesn't feel like a postseason game. It feels like a championship. It feels like a participation exhibition game is what it feels like. And that's what I'll say. It feels like exhibition games as opposed to a real postseason game. It doesn't feel like a postseason game.
Well, I think since we've instituted the playoff now, then I think they are all exhibition. Bowl games have become exhibition, and they largely were when there were 11 of them. There were teams in 2 of those 11 bowls that could have that were vying for a championship. Mark.
But again, if you have an 8-2 team and you're going into the Cotton Bowl and it doesn't mean anything in terms of the national championship, I still think that's a legitimate postseason game that everyone can be proud of, and it's interesting for the fans. It's, to me, exhibition games that have nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
I mean, you
11 game season.
You have to admit there's a big difference between the Cotton Bowl and the Camellia Bowl, even if neither one of them means anything. I mean, come on. You can't say
one is a bigger deal. Yes. One
feels like it's a real postseason game, and the other feels like,
even though it's not, if it's not in the playoff, it's not really a real postseason game. It's not in the playoff.
It's a postseason game.
It feels like a real postseason game that Florida International University will never get a chance to play in, ever. There are schools that will never, ever play in a bowl.
Of those games. And, playing in bowl games helps their recruiting, more opportunity for people. These, Coastal Carolina,
if that's your reasoning for this, then I can get behind that. If that's your reasoning that you want to give everyone a chance, you want to make it a participation trophy, and you want people to have everyone to have a chance.
It's not a
it's not even trophy. Every school doesn't make a bowl every year either. Still to this point, there's so many schools that play football. So yeah, there are a lot of schools that their only hope is to play in the Chlamydia Bowl.
Ooh,
I borrowed that from Tom Rito, by the way. He spelled camellia for me, but he spelled it in a way that it came out chlamydia.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the thing, Mark. That's me. It gives people more opportunity, and it gives players opportunity to play on national television that might not be during holidays when more people are watching. Maybe you'll see some eyes on a guy. I'm sure there are guys who NFL scouts checked him out in an intersectional game against better talent than they play on in their conference.
Probably waited for the Senior Bowl, but who's counting?
Well,
and watch the Chlamydia Bowl more than likely.
It's Ferrera land. We are so. You're literally admitted. You've literally admitted now that the only reason you're staying with this is for argument's sake, because it doesn't even mean anything to you.
No, I got down to what the real argument is that it is distilled. The importance of a postseason bowl game has been completely compromised and distilled. That's my
I'm arguing that with the playoff system, they're all that way. That Cotton Bowl doesn't mean anymore.
I reject that out of hand because it's never been that. Give me a break. Come on. You really think
the reality of it is that
that's not
there are conferences and schools that have better opportunity to bring in better talent, and they'll be playing in the Cotton Bowl or the Sugar Bowl when it's an off playoff year.
Or the Independence Bowl or the Liberty Bowl. Some of these other bowls that have been around since the 70s or the 80s. Even there's probably 20 that have been around for 40 years or 30 years, or now there's 87.
There are guys that played in high school that worked really hard to get into college. They got their college education through their talent of playing football, and their only thing they can hang their hat on at a Florida Atlantic or a Middle Tennessee or one of these schools is, I won the Camellia Bowl.
Yeah, we won a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, that matters. That statement matters. You don't even have to say what bowl game. Yeah,
we beat
college. We won a bowl
San
game.
Diego State or some team that we never otherwise would have played. Houston, something like this. So I just it's more college football games, and I like college football. I fully admit that that's part of the reason for me. But I think that since you put in a playoff, all of these other bowl games are now essentially meaningless. But they were in 1983 when Miami upset Nebraska and wins there was that game, and then there was one other bowl game that pitted teams that possibly could have won.
My argument was not that they're meaningless. My argument was that it feels like an exhibition, whereas to me, a Liberty Bowl or an Independence Bowl or a Peach Bowl that involves 2 8-2 teams or a 7-3 and an 8-2 team. And then I'm just saying that doesn't feel meaningless. Yes, it's meaningless in terms of who wins a national championship, of course.
Right.
But it seems when you've added another 10 or 15, yes, other people get a chance to play that never would have gotten a chance to play in the past. And that's a valid argument. And I'll stop with that. I think that's a good final argument that you're going to give kids a chance that would never have a chance. And if they happen to, pull out 5 or 6 wins, they can maybe get to a bowl that they never would have had a chance to if they play in the Atlantic 10 or whatever it is, or the MAC. And that's a valid argument. That's a valid argument. So we'll end there.
You don't have to watch it. You don't have to watch it.
We'll end there. I don't watch them.
You don't watch the Cotton Bowl either.
No, I'll probably watch a little bit of the Cotton Bowl. It depends. Notre Dame was in the Cotton Bowls a lot, so I would watch I would watch the Cotton Bowls.
Guys,
yes,
the Lions fired their head coach.
Yes,
they did.
And I think it remains, and all it really does is lead us to the question is, did anyone believe Adam Gase would still have his job when we lost Dan Quinn, Matt Patricia? Who else did we fire? Isn't it?
O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Did we ever think that Adam Gase would outlive those guys?
And the GM
as a head coach
for the Jaguars has been fired as well.
Yeah.
I think finished 30-80. I think that was his tenure.
There are some attractive, that's getting a lot of love for an attractive job. Actually, is the Jaguar job, because they have some young talent down there. Their biggest problem has been quarterback. They're going to draft 2nd or 3rd at the worst, so they are going to get one of these young quarterbacks unless they would choose to trade that pick away, and I don't think they will. A lot of people saying of the jobs that you're looking at right now, the open jobs and what may also be open. Certainly San Diego is one. They think Anthony Lynn loses that job. That looks because Justin Herbert looks to be the guy, but that's a very attractive job in Jacksonville for somebody. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets it.
It's been attractive for 4 or 5 years, actually, because of the talent they have gotten. But all that talent is now on the Los Angeles Rams, on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, let's remember they were in the AFC Championship game 3 seasons ago, I believe. They were in the AFC Championship. 2017.
Yeah. And then they signed Bortles to a huge contract. And to your point, Jeff, I guess once, you really can tell a guy's character once they sign the big contract. Obviously, Blake Bortles, not good.
Well, that was one of the reasons that GM got fired, because even though they were in the AFC Championship game, that was because they had a very special defense, and Bortles played, average, and he got that big contract for playing average. I don't think he got any worse after the contract. I just don't ever think he was a good to begin with.
You do. There is a difference between a kid that's hungry and playing with living in an apartment and a kid that's full and playing and living in a mansion. The reality.
Yeah, sometimes. Not always, though.
Yeah, you're right. It's not always the case.
It's not always a good, but I just think with Blake Bortles, that was a case of, again, that's why the GM got fired, was because of decisions like that. They gave Blake Bortles way too much money.
I think Blake Bortles should have stayed in college another year or 2.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And maybe he would have been better in the NFL, but he didn't. He got paid and he faded.
Well, he was one of the COVID room guys for the Broncos as well. I think he was the practice quarterback for the Broncos. Honestly, Bortles was among those guys. So, glad to see he's maintaining that.
He's still in the league.
Maintaining that submerging career he started with.
All right. Any other guesses for the trivia game? The top position player, number of games overall played in the history of the NFL. It's not a quarterback. It's not an offensive lineman. Not a tight end.
I was going to guess a quarterback.
Brett Favre is right up there. Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's who I was going to guess. I was going to guess Brett Favre.
Yeah, that would be a very, very good guess. He is in terms of quarterbacks, he's the top. Tony Gonzalez, in terms of tight ends, he's the top.
God, I just, I know it's. I thought it would be an offensive lineman.
It's got to play into something that we talked about today. Is it a Bronco?
It's not a Bronco.
All right, give me another.
You're onto something, Jeff. You're onto that whole. It's got to do. There's got to be a motivation in here.
Ronnie Lott.
You're on a very good track there, but it's not Ronnie Lott. It's not a defensive back.
He didn't say it wasn't a 49er.
No, it's going to be a 49er.
I have not said that. Woodson is a very good guess. Rod Woodson.
Rod Woodson? Okay.
No, that's a very, very good guess. He's up there. I think he might be the top safety or DB.
Frank Gore, another good guess. Weirdly long career for a guy that had his
Weirdly
leg
long,
broken in half.
who had
Oh my God, yeah.
tore his knee twice in college and then has been completely durable for 15, 16 years.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Great
unbelievable. All right,
Great
so
story.
49er, not an offensive lineman or a quarterback.
Not Charles Haley. Solid guess.
Charles Haley. How about man? Just running through all the names that are running through my mind are guys I know didn't play that long. Not Ronnie Lott.
That's not a bad guess.
No, I got nothing.
Jesus in cleats.
Jerry Rice.
Really?
Yeah, Jesus in cleats. That's his nickname.
303 games.
Huh? Oh, I guess
That's crazy.
I've
Yeah, he
never,
played a long
I've never
time.
heard that nickname. I never heard
Oh,
that
really?
nickname.
Yeah, that's his nickname.
Huh. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Thinking about it, that it would be.
Yeah, 303 games. He played forever. He really
Yeah,
did.
he
He
did.
played for the Raiders for a long time.
Yeah.
And he has
Signed with
records that no
Seattle
one-
in the end, right? And
I
last
think
thing
he
he
had a
signed
cup
was
of coffee
Seattle. Cup of coffee
with
with
them,
Seattle. Yeah.
But he got to a Super Bowl with the Raiders, and they got
He
trashed.
really-
That's last.
He
Raiders
really
were
liked
relevant.
the northwest of the United States, I guess.
Really did.
Apparently. He wanted to stay there.
Enjoyed the Western Seaboard.
All right. Before we go, then, one other thing to talk about. We have a Tuesday night football game. We don't have those a lot. The undefeated Steelers, the Ravens, the darlings of the NFL. Apparently, they'll just move Ravens games around just so.
Oh, you don't have.
Oh, you don't have a
You don't have
full
Lamar Smith?
Oh, okay, right, exactly. Any chance anybody sees the Ravens pulling off the upset in this game? I mean, they need the game.
It's
and
one of those
Steelers
things,
don't.
John, where it would be like, eyebrow raising, but it wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah,
It's one
I
of those
think
things I
they're
would not be
desperate.
surprised.
They're
Yeah.
desperate right now. So
They are, but
and Steelers could lose too, and still.
But no, remember, it's only one team.
Yeah, I know. You're
Right.
so obsessed with it. You're just obsessed.
Well, no, I'm not obsessed with it.
Remember,
I just
John.
want to.
Remember, there's only one. They only get one. The whole story is the 1 week off. Oh my God!
Again,
Jesus.
when there's only one team that gets the bye, that's
Only one team
important.
gets to buy. Did I mention only one team gets to buy?
And I just want to I want to reiterate it so you don't forget about that, because you seem to. Because every time you talk about the Steelers, it's like, they
I know
lose
there's not
two.
time
They
left in
lose
this
three.
show, but I think the bye hurts a lot of teams, a
Could
lot
be.
of seasons.
Could be. I want to maintain.
I agree with you. There's a good amount of evidence there, but there's a good amount of evidence too that if you have a bye, you have a chance to rest. You only have the big thing is you only have 2 games to get to the Super Bowl as opposed to 3. I think there's just as much evidence, probably
Lenny.
a little bit more evidence that it helps you
Yep.
than it hurts.
Go
you.
with the Steelers, Lenny.
Lenny's on the fence.
Yeah, Lenny. Steelers going to plow them, and Lenny knows Steelers. For a
No, he does.
for a non-Steelers fan, he knows all. So if Lenny says the Steelers are going to boat race them, book it.
So the last time a team was 11-0 was the 07 Patriots, correct? And then before that, I think we have to go back to the 91 Redskins, who I think were
Maybe.
12-0.
Maybe.
And they were the Redskins then, so I'm fine saying that, correct?
Yeah, what were the 85
Am I
Bears?
allowed
What
to
game?
say that?
Yeah.
I-
What would be 85? Was that the 10th game?
Oh, yeah, they might have been the 10th.
that might have
or
been
the-
later. That might have been later because I know they only lost
maybe
that
the
Dolphin
12th
game.
Yeah. That's a
That
good
might have
I
been
feel
question.
like there was a good stretch
That's
there
before 91.
where those Dolphins players were cracking champagne later in the season. There was
Yeah,
a good
because
stretch
Minnesota
there.
had a year where they were,
They were 15-1.
but I think they
Oh,
did
the
lose that game.
Saints. That's good. That Saints were 13-0. He's
Yeah.
right. And they lost their last 3 games in 09.
Yep.
So that's actually after. All right. So the Saints are the last team. So good job, Joe Connolly.
All right, there it is.
All right.
That's all.
Jerry
I like
Rice,
the Steelers.
bowl
Jerry Rice.
games. I will never make fun of bowl games again because of
Dream
all of the
crusher.
plethora of kids who have worked very, very
Dream
hard
crusher.
and have a chance to play in a bowl game. And
Mr. Green,
And-
Dream Crusher, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Don't forget, there's only one buy.
I hate scholarships.
for
Take your
John
participation
Pelkey,
trophy, Wake
Jeff
Forest.
Taylor, I am the elitist, Mark Ferreira.
Dream crusher.
We will talk to you from home.
Good luck,
as
Mark.
long as everything goes well
All right.
on Wednesday. Next time, everyone stay safe. You've been listening to After Further Review.